Hey guys, this is Nathan and welcome to the Gaming 4. Today in this Unturned map review, we're going to be covering a map called Poland. And there's actually quite a few maps named Poland. This one in particular was made by a guy named Hassing, and so we just wanted to make sure that it was clear which Poland it was. Of course, there'll be a link to this in the description below. So this map got an 82 out of 100, and obviously there are good reasons for that. So let's start by going over some of the good things about the map, and then we'll go over some of the ways that it could have been improved. One of the best things that becomes pretty clear quite immediately is that this map was very survivable. Now there's a couple aspects that kind of add to that. First of all, there's a good amount of clothing so that your survivor has a bit of extra even in certain situations, so that you're able to make healing gear such as bandages that stop bleeding, as well as you can even save up a little bit enough to make a bedroll, which allows you to keep your progress. Something else that really adds to the survivability of this map was the amount of food, which was actually fantastic. Probably one of the best balancing of food that we've seen in a map so far. In pretty much all of the locations there was some sort of food source available, which is pretty realistic. If you think about how people live these days, there's always a place to get food nearby. And that was definitely true throughout this entire map. So it was very refreshing to see that, and it made it very comfortable to live and survive while moving through this map. One other thing that related to how easy and enjoyable this map was with the amount of vehicles and vehicle maintenance gear. There was definitely a good variety and a good amount of vehicles spread out throughout the map, and pretty much every location that you would expect to find maintenance gear, you would find maintenance gear. So that's also really great because when you have predictable item spawns, it makes the raiding process a lot more enjoyable and satisfying. And so this map did a good job of making sure that those item spawns were somewhat predictable. So you're able to raid specific locations when you needed certain things, and you'd actually find those. Another strong point of this map was the natural side, including the landscape and some of the natural resources. Now we did find berries, metal nodes, and animals spread out throughout the map. The berries were included in Easter eggs, so they're going to be pretty hard to find, but they are included, so it's good to have those in there. Also, the landscape was very well done. One of the few custom things that was added to this map was custom materials for the landscape, grass, and whatnot, and it really just had a good feel, very unique as well. And I'm not sure how realistic it was compared to Poland, but it definitely made it stand out compared to a lot of other maps. Besides just the materials, the landscape was also very well done in terms of the landmarks and extra boulders and things just to keep it interesting. Never was there an area of landscape that was just flat and boring. There's always something to look at and some other area to explore. So it really helps out with those bare patches throughout the map where there's not so many locations, nothing really to go to, but the landscape kind of carries it in those spots and makes it more interesting. One of the last things I wanted to mention was this map did very well in terms of including endgame content. There were radiation zones and military bases and Easter eggs to find, but not only that, there was actually a decent amount of gear to explore those areas as well. And this didn't just include melee weapons. There's actually a very good amount of ranged weapons, both civilian and military, throughout the entire map, which is pretty rare as well. We usually see a lack of ranged weapons, usually in the higher tiers, as well as ammo. So this map did a very good job of providing the higher tier content, as well as gear that allows you to even raid the higher tier content. Alright, so that's pretty much it for the strengths of this map. So let's move on to some of the weaknesses and some of the few areas that it could have been improved on. One of the weakest aspects of this map had to have been the detailing. Now the detailing itself was about average quality. One of the main issues with it was there was way too much copy and pasting, but besides that, it was pretty good. And of course, a lot of maps have issues with this. The detailing tends to be one of the harder parts, especially because it's just a grind of just adding objects in ways that look nice without repeating yourself too much. So definitely that would be something that this map could work on, and it would overall improve the quality quite a bit. Another issue that we found was kind of relating to various types of item spawns and how they're spread throughout the map. One of them was that there was definitely not enough anti-radiation gear in terms of the radiation zones themselves. While exploring the entire map, we didn't find a single piece of anti-radiation gear, so we would not have been able to explore those radiation zones without giving us some extra gear for that. So make sure that you do include those spawns. If you did have them, probably add a few more of them, make the spawn tables a little bit better in terms of finding that gear, and that'll just help players get to that last bit of endgame content where they're exploring that radiation zone. Another thing relating to the balancing of item spawns was the amount of medical spawns and medical gear was pretty good, but they were not spread very evenly throughout the map. Most of the medical gear was located in one or two of the largest cities, and a lot of the other places didn't have like a pharmacy or very many medical locations in general. So maybe consider adding a few more medical locations in some of the smaller towns around the edges of the map. That way, when a player gets in trouble and they're like losing health or they need to fix their infection levels, they can go to one of those closer locations instead of having to travel all the way to the main city to get some relief from that. Now, one of the last things relating to the item spawns has to be the amount of military ammo boxes spread out throughout the map. Now, there was a good amount of military weapons, ranged weapons, and attachments even, but there was a decent lack of military ammo boxes themselves, and there's a bit of a desync between the type of weapons that dropped and the type of ammo that you got. Now, some of the weapons that were dropping were augurs, we did see a Night Raider, and those weapons are very good, and they're definitely higher tier as well. But the weird thing about it was we were getting military ammunition crates throughout the map, and we were only getting a few of those, so it definitely would have been good to see more of them. But also the default mags that come in both of those weapons are ranger ammunition, whereas the weapons themselves can take both ranger and military. So the issue with that is we didn't find any extra military mags, so our military ammunition crates, whereas they would work with the guns themselves, we didn't have any mags for them because the default mags are ranger mags. So there's a bit of a desync in that case. It was kind of a good idea to have military ammo with those guns, but you do need to make sure that you include the military mag drops themselves, or maybe just consider switching all the way over to ranger ammunition crates. Either way would work for me, but as it was, we had a very hard time using those high tier guns because of the lack of ammo, and just because there's a little bit of a desync between the type of guns and the default clips they came with, as well as the ammo crates that we were getting. One of the last issues I want to mention is the amount of locations spread out throughout the map. Now, because of the amount of vehicle spawns and the detailing on the landscape, it did not feel too bad, and it did not feel like it was super empty, but I definitely think there could have been a few more locations put into the map, and it just would have filled it up a little bit better overall. Now, of course, the way it was arranged, they were pretty evenly spaced, so adding a new large location into the map would entail some rearranging of some of the larger locations, which is definitely a very difficult thing to do. So maybe don't add like another whole city, but maybe add a fewer locations in between some of the larger cities just to fill up those small blank spaces and keep it a little bit more interesting for the player as they're exploring. But once again, it was a very good map. It got an 82 out of 100, which is a very good score. And overall, there were not any super major issues with the map. Overall, it was very playable and it was very enjoyable as well. And so if you just touch up some of those extra small things, it would just overall improve the quality just that extra bit, and it would have gotten a higher score overall if you had touched on some of those points. So anyway guys, of course there's a link to this map in the description below if you're interested. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and please subscribe if you want to see some more. I will see you all later.